It's time for your mix of movers and shakers, of doers and makers. It's time for Funko Fun Chat.
Today's guest. This producer and writer has worked on Friends, 30 Rock, and Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Meet Robert Carlock.
I'm Robert Carlock. I'm a television producer and showrunner. I worked at Saturday Night Live and 30 Rock and Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and we've got an animated show coming out soon on Netflix, May 12th, called Mulligan.
Don't worry, me and Lucy are gonna fix everything.
And I always knew I wanted to tell stories and do that through actors. And the great thing about TV is, if film is a director's medium, TV is a writer-producer medium, and I loved the idea of someday being in charge, so to speak. I work with a lot of people who know a lot more about certain things than I ever will, but getting to call the shots at the end of the day and take what you put on paper into the real world as close to how you wanted it as possible is an amazing thing to get to do. Yeah, so Mulligan, as in a do-over, I think the phrase that started in golf, but I hear used all the time, is the name of our main character. And it's basically the world ends in a kind of disaster movie way, and our Boston dummy, Matty Mulligan, is the guy who saves the day, and so everyone, the remaining people on Earth, a couple thousand people left in a destroyed Washington, D.C., are looking to him to lead them for no good reason. But it's really a question of like, okay, can we do it right this time? And hopefully in a funny way. Yeah, we've got Tina Fey and Dana Carvey and Sam Richardson and Phil LaMarr and Dan Radcliffe and Chrissy Teigen, who told me it's actually pronounced Teigen. I want to get that out there. Sam Means, my co-creator on this thing, came into the office one day having watched the movie San Andreas with The Rock. And he was just laughing. He was laughing with his wife because it ends with, and we used this clip in the pitch, like destroyed San Francisco, right? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Carla Gugino are looking out over the destroyed city, and she says, "Now what do we do?" And I'm like, "Why are you asking him? He played like a helicopter pilot in this thing." And he says, "Now we rebuild." And he was just laughing about like, what if the movie kept going, and this guy is like in charge of rebuilding California.
Now we rebuild.
Where do you start? What do you do? There's a reason the movie ends there, because it's hard, the next part. Like killing the aliens was the easy part. I come from a family of writers, journalists, ad copy writers. So the idea of putting words on paper to make a living wasn't too foreign. The idea of writing for performance was something I didn't think about until I had some friends who went and worked at Saturday Night Live. This was in 1993 or 4, and go backstage at SNL and in the writer's room there, and just the energy of that. And I remember Elle Macpherson was walking around just with a beer in her hand, and I thought, I don't think I'm gonna go to law school, Dad. I don't know how old I was, but watching that, the baseball bloopers reel in The Naked Gun, I just remember my brain going, this is the best thing I've ever seen. This was pushing on like whatever that dopamine center, that sugar and cocaine hit. Like I was just sitting there going, I can't believe this is happening. And my brain was kind of getting the steps that they were taking to get to the tiger and the guy's head falling off. And yeah, maybe that's where I was done. I like to pretend I was 22 or 23, but maybe I was 10. Yeah, I mean, as a variety show, it's a lot of, you're trying to combine a lot of different sensibilities, and every 4 minutes, the sensibility can change. I'm trying to remember, I mean, look, the funniest stuff that happened was Will Ferrell would wander around as a character named Ron, who wore an orange jumpsuit and kind of yellow-tinted glasses and a neckerchief, and he wouldn't be Will. I mean, sometimes you'd find him on a show night as Ron between the show, and you had to tell him. I remember walking up to him and saying, "Hey, Will," and he'd say, I'll try to imitate Ron. I'm like, "I haven't seen Will." I'm like, okay. We just made some cuts in the sketch that Will needs to be aware of. We cut And I'd show Ron, and he'd say, well, if I see Will, I'll tell him. Absolutely dead-eyed commitment to the idea that Will has no idea what's going on, and here's Ron. I think wherever humans go, there are funny things happening, and that's the book. The movie is based on a book written by a woman named Kim Barker, who was a New York, she now is a New York Times journalist. She was working for the Chicago paper then. It's a funny book. She was writing about the absurdity of being a human being in those circumstances where, and particularly as a journalist, where you're partying like crazy one day and you're, watching people die the next, and those things go together,
Ma'am, I asked you to stay put!
Those assholes tried to shoot us!
It was a fascinating process just doing the research on it, seeing what people go through, but also how they cope and how the most ordinary things in the world happen, and then the most extraordinary in the next second, and how those ordinary things become so weird and bent by where you are. I had been at Saturday Night Live for 5 years and loved it there, and just knew that I wanted to tell stories and write for characters for a longer period of time than 4 minutes, and managed somehow to get a job at Friends for the last 3 seasons. Definitely plugging into something that was already just huge and knew what it was. And I say this as someone who came into it. I feel like it's a show that never really got the credit for how well crafted it was. I was surprised when I got there. It seemed so easy. They're all pretty, and their lives are pretty, and the stakes are not life or death. And I learned so much about just crafting story there. It was never a show that really got nominated for writing, but they took it very, very seriously, and really smart, talented people. So I was mostly learning. I was good at pitching jokes, so they appreciated my being around. One of my favorite jokes that I pitched, I think Joey was writing a letter of recommendation for Monica and Chandler because they wanted to adopt, and he was trying to sound smarter than he is, so he used like a thesaurus. I guess today you'd probably have an AI do it, but and he was trying to say, no, these are my words, and Monica points out, you signed it Baby Kangaroo Tribbiani. He replaced his own first name with a fancier synonym. I always liked that joke.
Because you signed it Baby Kangaroo Tribbiani.
We do have another show that we're producing with a woman named Meredith Scardino, who's been a writer with us for a long time, called Girls 5 Eva. That's moving to Netflix very soon. There'll be 3 seasons, with shooting season 3, so there'll be 3 seasons. It's really funny. It's about a one-hit wonder girl group from the 90s that gets back together in their middle age. One's a dentist, one's running a restaurant, trying to reclaim the dream. Sarah Bareilles and Renee Elise Goldsberry and Paula Pell and Busy Phillips and a lot of other funny people. Beyond that, something. It's a fun landscape in which to be a writer. There are a lot of opportunities to do a lot of different kinds of things.
Now that's a fun chat, but there's more. Check out these other interviews and more fun stuff on Funko Fun TV.